Alrighty guys, this is Andrew, and I've been on a massive losing streak lately, and I don't know, I guess it's pretty shitty, but on the bright side, I did get a double legendary drop, which is nice, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, in celebration of this, I figured I'd go over the top 3 heroes that nobody would ever want to see on their team. Now, I'm not saying that these heroes won't ever be good in any situations, in all situations. In fact, there are probably a handful of scenarios where some of these heroes may not be too bad. Heck, I bet you with some tweaking here and there, I'm sure Blizzard can make something out of them eventually, but I don't know. For now, I think we can all agree that there are certain heroes, some heroes in the Overwatch roster that you would just let out this collective sigh whenever you see them being picked. Anyways, the first one I want to get out there is Widowmaker. Now, she used to be this fearsome killer back in the early days of Overwatch, not like lore-wise, but like when Overwatch was first released. But since the nerfs to her scope in and out animation, she's been hit really hard in the pick rates on even pro-level play, right? But the truth is, we aren't pros, most of us aren't pros, I'm not a pro, and the majority of us, you know, we are still seeing Widowmakers being picked in our games, and, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I get a little antsy whenever I see a Widowmaker. Not because Widow is necessarily a bad hero, you know, it's not just that she's clunky now, it's more on the side that 95% of the time in just like solo queue, pub play, even in competitive play, the person playing Widowmaker may not necessarily have the aim required to play that character, you know, myself included. I have my good days and bad days, though I'll admit I have way more bad days than I do good, and she gets hard countered by most of the tanks with shields. Looking at Reinhardt, Winston, even Zarya to a degree, they can all protect their squishier teammates from getting picked. Now the next hero on my list is gonna have to be the one and only Bastion. Kinda ironic too, because there used to be a lot more Bastions, according to Overwatch lore. But anyways, Bastion is just one of those heroes that gets picked on your team and you just instantly feel worried, right? And while I'll admit, you know, Bastion certainly has his uses. In fact, he was a pretty decent pick back in the day when there used to be sudden death because of the time limit. You know, Bastion only had to hold out for, I forget how long it was, but it was like a minute or something. But in general, I want to say that Bastion's a pretty iffy pick. See, the problem with Bastion is that he really requires 2 things to succeed really well, and these 2 things are pretty hard to come by. One of them is going to be a team to play around him. The team has to build around a Bastion. You need a Reinhardt, you need a pretty decent Mercy, you need a team that will protect the Bastion. And 2 is Bastion can't die ever. See, the moment that Bastion loses the positioning, the enemy team will get a massive incentive to push, and it becomes increasingly difficult to find a spot to properly set up and counter that sort of momentum. A prime example of this would be something like a hybrid map where Bastion is picked for the point capture section, but gets killed and kind of struggles to regain proper positioning. That happens to me all the time. So Bastion's countered pretty heavily by the popular picks of today as well. I mean, Genji and Tracer are the ones that come to my mind, but tanks like Diva, Reinhardt, they can protect their team long enough for their flankers to kind of get around the Bastion and just kill him. That being said though, every once in a while I have games where it just falls into place magically, and our Bastion does actually quite well, but I want to say those situations are more far and few in between. So the last hero on this list actually makes me a little sad. You know, it hurts me a little bit to say this because I actually like playing this character. It's sort of a guilty secret here, but it's gonna have to be Torbjorn. He's great for certain parts of certain maps against a team that is uncoordinated, but he simply gets countered too hard by tanks. He's not too terrible if you know some secret spots on where you can hide your turrets so the enemy can't find it quickly, and his Molten Core is certainly nothing to snuff at. I mean, one of the most satisfying things for me in Overwatch is to get a perfect turret placement and have the entire enemy team in a team fight with my team already and just launch Molten Core. It just decimates people. But the thing is once the enemy catches on to where your turret is and they focus it down, Torbjorn suddenly becomes very, very useless. He's pretty terrible against Pharah and Hanzo. I mean, unless you have a Reinhardt covering your turret, but at that point, it's like, why would you want to dedicate an entire hero, a core hero, just to defend a turret. You know, he's also pretty bad in maps with a lot of flanking routes. And he kind of runs into a similar problem as with Bastion. He requires a certain level of positioning and setup time, and he's stationary, or at least his turret is, right? And so, while he doesn't have this problem nearly as bad as Bastion, I want to say, like, once the enemy team is aggressive, tanky, and has momentum, and your turret is just getting taken out really, really quickly, it becomes quite difficult to play Torbjorn. Things really fall apart for Torbjorn on King of the Hill, simply because there's obviously no preparation time, right? He kind of has to build his turret in the middle of a fight, and if anyone ever, has played Torbjorn on King of the Hill, you guys would know that your turret will get focused down starting at level 1. So his effectiveness is just, I mean, sadly, right, best suited for choke point, capture point style maps, time to prepare, your whole team's there, all that stuff. I don't know. With Torbjorn, I feel like he's less of a terrible pick and more of like a niche pick that often gets picked in situations that are not his niche and people don't know when to switch off. So that is my list of heroes that nobody ever really wants to see on their team. Obviously, I left out some more heroes that maybe you guys don't want to see on your team. If I did leave out a certain hero that you absolutely hated, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And until next time, guys, I'll see you around.